Hello, everyone. This is Coach Clayton, and this is my Women's Empowerment Interview episode. And today we have Lindsay and as our guest, and she's going to discuss her journey of overcoming obstacles, both personally and professionally. Hey, Lindsay, how are you doing?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for inviting me here to be a guest on your show. And I'm looking forward to offering everybody some wonderful value.
Very, very good. So, Lindsay, just to give you a background, I'm an accountability coach and just working with so many women and like seeing so many events, negative events out in the world. I wanted this episode or this interview series to be a place where women can come each week just to feel inspired, just to give them hope, because there's so much going on, as you know about, the recent events. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I think I agree. As even though it seems on the surface like things might be settling down, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I think that our experience with the pandemic has just upheaved our lives in so many ways that we're not going to ever go back to the way it was. And so we're having to find these new ways of doing things. And that's leaving us with a lot of unanswered questions, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's just dive in, Lindsay. I mean, your background really intrigued me. You have a lot of important tips and tricks that you want to relay to the audience, which I'm really grateful for. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Lindsay?
Yes. Well, I'm a business consultant and a mother, of course. It should go mother business consultant. I have 4 awesome children and started my life. I was born and raised in Arizona, actually. That's kind of where my roots stem from. But I had a great career and loved every bit of it, except for the fact that it was on someone else's time.
Yes.
It was a great place to be, though. On the surface, it looked really good. I had a 6-figure income. My kids were in a good school and all that fun stuff that looks really pretty. But inside, I wasn't so awesome. I was actually, I remember this time specifically. I was thinking about this morning before I got on the call with you. I was driving. I had an hour commute to go 20 miles, you know how it goes in the city, right?
Yes.
So I had a lot of time to think. And this particular day, I was just in tears. I was in tears because I just wanted to be home with my kids. I wanted a different lifestyle. I really believed in visualization, and I would spend my time driving, imagining what I would want my life to be like. And that was bittersweet because on one hand, it was inspiring and motivational, but then on the other hand, it was such a stark contrast to what I was going through. And then I would have to go to work and put on a face. I was the manager. You can't be a manager and have a sad face. So I just felt like so much of my life was fake and out of alignment with who I was. And that was very painful. And what I really wanted was to live in a log cabin in the woods. It was something my husband and I had dreamt about for years. And we wanted to live in a rural, nowhere land and raise our kids. And we wanted a wholesome life. So that kind of started my journey, actually. I had spent 20 years in the car business. It's all I knew. Sales, marketing, management. And so it was really scary to leave and to even consider making such a drastic change because, right, I was the primary breadwinner. I had been for all of our years that we've been together. My family was now reliant on a certain level of income. It would be really hard to just suddenly scale back and let go of things that we become accustomed to. So although we could do that, it was definitely something that was a huge hurdle to overcome right there. And that's kind of where my journey starts.
Wow. Believe me, I can relate to being in the car, having tears come down, saying there has to be a better way. This just isn't it. There definitely has to be a better way. So tell me about the process from knowing that you want to be with your kids to actually being able to hand in your resignation letter saying, I'm out of here. Yeah.
Oh man, there was this moment I was called to the GM's office because he had seen one of my YouTube videos I had done talking about escaping the rat race. That was something I was working on, and I was documenting my journey on YouTube. Well, one of my employees had seen it and showed it to the GM. And I mean, first of all, I did everything on my private time. So I wasn't infringing on any, errors of company policy, et cetera. But man, when he brought me up, he didn't want me to leave. I mean, I had a lot of experience. I was really good at what I did. And he sat me down and he said, look, I want to be working with you in another 20 years. And I just really want to know that you're going to be here. Oh, my stars. In that moment, my God, I mean, it was like a knife to my gut. I was like, I cannot imagine being here another 20 years. But on the surface, I'm like, yeah, of course. Like,
I want to retire. Yeah.
So the day out, so basically what we did is, it's kind of a long, detailed story, but bottom line is we ended up making a commitment. And, if I could document my journey into 4 steps to help people really understand the path, the first step is commitment. My husband and I were sitting in our chairs and talking, which any parent knows that is a precious moment.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Yeah. And I was just expressing my frustration and my sadness and all of that. We had just had my daughter. So she was only I think within her first year. And again, I was missing out on firsts. I missed my kids. What I didn't mention is every year one of my kids was born, I promised myself that within the next year, or by the time he's 4, I'm going to quit. I had promised myself so much and let myself down so many times that I was starting to get pissed off. Yeah. It was getting to that point. And we sat there, I was expressing myself, and he started talking about moving again. And I just looked at him and I said, when are we going to stop talking about this and actually get it done? I'm done playing the talk. It's time to walk the walk. And he said, well, let's figure it out. So we penciled it out and we started taking action, blindly taking action, I might add. We didn't know where we were going to go. We didn't have a house lined up. I didn't have a job lined up. We started packaging things. We started selling things. We started fixing our house up to sell. We started taking action. So number 2, take actions toward your next step. Even if you don't have all the pieces filled out yet, it's okay, because I believe that once we start taking those steps, God is able to work in our life and magic can happen. And that's exactly what happened. It was a rocky road. Grandma died in there. I thought I was going to stay. We put offers in on houses that fell through. I mean, it was up and down. Trust me, it was not a straight road. And the old me would have said so many times, oh, well, it wasn't meant to be. Yeah. Well, that didn't work out. It must not be meant to be. Right. I learned that had to be one of my most valuable lessons through that, was that whole philosophy of it wasn't meant to be is baloney. It is meant to be if we attend it, period. And it just means that we have to put our blinders on and move forward until it is achieved, right? There is no alternative if we say so. It comes from us. And that was so powerful. I went from discounting my dream, saying, well, it'll never happen, to saying, no, this is happening no matter what. And I remember when I said that, I'm like, no matter what, I am moving to Idaho, because that's where I decided to go at that point. And it's happening no matter what. So we had taken a trip. We took a journey, a road trip up through Idaho to kind of explore and figure out where we wanted to live. I'd never been there. We ended up in a town north, very north, and we looked at some land. Now I told God, I said, hey, if this is where I'm meant to be, because I still believe in that. I still believe in science, and I want to know that I'm on the right path, but I'm also a believer that I create my path. So it's a really interesting dynamic. It was a very interesting learning experience. But at this moment I said, if this is where I'm meant to be, I would love to see a sign of butterflies. So we park the van, we get out, we're walking around, we come back, and there were, no joke, 5 or 6 butterflies inside my van. Wow. Inside my van on the dash. Immediately, I just had chills. I said to my husband, I'm like, this is it. And believe me, it did not happen fast. It was still another 3 years from that day that we ended up with property within a stone's throw of that 1 acreage we were on. Wow. Is that crazy? And we got
Wow.
a log cabin. It fell in like magic. Once we finally found the place, once I'd worked through whatever I had to work through, it
Mhm.
was like blink and done. It was a miracle. It was so
Wow.
cool. So that's
Wow.
really what I'm saying. Just keep your blinders on, keep your focus, reinvigorate yourself to
Mhm.
keep your mission, and do not waver. Or if you do, just get back on the horse. Cause I mean, we're human,
Mhm.
and stay committed. And that's ultimately how you can move mountains in your life, essentially,
Mhm. Amazing. Amazing. So it's commitment. You said 4 parts. So commitment, action. What would the third and the fourth be? Like tenacity?
You know, I actually don't remember. I wrote this in a podcast episode once and I'm like, there was 4. What was the 4? I know that keeping the blinders on, that would be
Yeah.
3, like
Okay.
staying, because once you keep going,
Mhm.
it is normal to, I call it like the pendulum effect, right? We get really close and
Yes.
then we kind of fall away, and then we get really close and then we fall. Okay. This is
Mhm.
going to sound crazy. And I'm glad I'm on a podcast with ladies because you'll
Yeah.
understand. It is like labor. When you are
Mhm.
birthing something new in your life, right? You get
Mhm.
very close, you're pushing, and then you rest, and then you go and you push, and then you rest. And then finally, baby comes and life is good.
I love that analogy.
I told my husband, I said, I feel like this is our 5th child. We just like figured out how to get this.
Wow.
But that was
Wow.
even all of that, believe it or not, was like only step 1 of my
Mm.
journey, because once I got here,
Yeah.
I didn't have friends and family. I
Mhm.
had no means other than we had some money from our house sale in Arizona.
Okay.
I had no connections, and we're in a small town. This isn't like, it's not like Phoenix, where you could just get a job at like,
Yeah.
you breathe out and you got a job. Like, this isn't
Mhm.
like that. Usually you have to know people. People get hired because they know people.
Yeah.
There's just that kind of town. And so also the deal was I was supposed to not work. He was going to work. He was going to get a job.
Oh.
And that is kind of what I was talking to you a little bit about before.
Mhm.
I still had it in my heart that I wanted to be with my kids. We moved
Yes.
up here so that I could homeschool. We could grow a garden. We could have a little farm,
Mhm.
make our land fruitful, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And it costs money to make money. It costs money
Yes.
to get your garden. The land needed work, like it
Mhm.
wasn't like it was in my head. Like what?
Mhm. Mhm.
We sometimes do that, but that didn't mean that there wasn't a way. It just didn't go the way I thought.
Mhm.
Um, I did take that first year off, and that was really crucial because I started to realize that I had almost a PTSD of sorts from
Mm.
working in such a high stress environment. I don't know
Mhm.
anybody else I've talked to some people that have had that experience where, they worked in a really high stress, intense environment and then took time off. And there was actually like a decompression
Mhm.
phase that they
Mhm.
went through. And I really became aware of myself, how the slightest stress trigger would like instantly like shoot through my body in a way that never happened before. And I realized right in that moment that I made the right decision, because the stress of my job was silently killing me and I was unaware. It was just a
Wow.
really poignant moment, like, oh man, I totally made the right move coming out here and taking this time off. It helped me just calm down. um
Wow. Do you know that that is really going to help so many women? Because we don't know. You said that the stress was silently like killing you inside. And we
yeah.
don't know when you're going through it, you don't know. It's just normal because you've been dealing in that mode for so long. What were some of the things that you did to decompress from that PTSD?
I played a lot. Well,
Okay.
that was my goal anyway, right? To play with my kids. I got my boys enrolled in the local
Mhm.
school, and then my daughter was only 4 So she wasn't eligible, or actually she was 3.5. She was 3, almost 4.
Okay.
And so we played, and I got lost in it, and with gratitude. I mean, almost the most gratitude I've ever felt, because I had missed out on so many years being able to play with my kids. I soaked it up like a sponge.
Yeah.
And I think that was the therapy I needed, just to have children and laughter. And I got my kids involved in 4-H, and we did activities together, and we went hiking and exploring, and just, I put myself out there as mom. What I discovered, though, what was interesting is, like, within a year, that happiness was overshadowed by 2 things. One was an external circumstance, which was finances. Hubby didn't get the job as quickly as we thought. He had been a real estate investor, and so he hadn't had an actual W-2 for so long that it was like hard for him to get back into the workforce. So, and, I guess that I should explain that he had, in the crash of 2008, he had lost his empire. And so during our relationship, he's been coping with that, and I had been the primary income earner that entire time. So that's kind of where that stems from. Okay. He was just struggling to figure out what he was going to do in his next move. And we got behind on our mortgage, this beautiful house that we just loved, it's our dream house. And here we were about to lose it. And I really thought that that would be the catalyst that would make the difference in his life. And it didn't. And I wasn't going to let us be homeless. So I went out and got another job, and now I'm back in the workforce. But at that same time, so the first one was the financial piece. The second was my own mental piece. And that was, I started to really not know who I was. My identity had been wrapped up with my career. And so there was a major shift there mentally that it took me going, who am I? Like, I've done a lot of self-help work, and I know who I am is not my job, right? But it's interesting how, even though I know that, I think my ego probably was inflated by the fact that I had a 6-figure job, that I was the person everybody wanted to fix their problems, that I could, handle this problem and put out that fire. And I was the go-to person for everything, and I could handle it all. And then at home, I did this and that, and I took the kids here, and I did this, and that, I don't know. What am I trying to say? I've got the power.
Yes.
It wasn't like, it wasn't a good power. It was the same power that was stressing me out. But it was like, I almost like, identified with that, like this, I'm the fixer. And so for that year, all of a sudden I'm like, well, what do I do with myself? I'm done playing Susie Homemaker. Okay.
Yes.
I'm over this. I got to make a difference in the world. Like, what the world?
The world's waiting for me. What am I doing?
Well, and that is true. I always felt like there was a calling for me to do more. And I've been like waiting for it to come out of me. I'm like, okay, God, I'm ready when you are. Like, let me know, what is it? And finally, it took me a while. I discovered the idea of my podcast around that time, where now let me back up for just a second, because I was sitting there, right? I'm realizing this whole conundrum of time versus money. I was loving spending all this time with my family, but I needed money.
Yes, absolutely.
And if I had to go get a job, I was going to be sucking up that time with my family. And, I wanted time, freedom, and financial freedom. I did not want to compromise. Thankfully, I had learned from, I'd say, manifesting my house, I suppose is the right word, but literally going through that whole process of getting my dream house. I realized that if I want it, I can create it. And so it really got me refocused, and I started saying to myself, what is it going to take? And that's when my journey to passive income really started to sink in. Now, I told you my husband was a real estate investor. Actually, that's how we met, was I was apprenticing as a real estate investor. So my background, even though it was in, the car business, I had experience in real estate. And so I also had some rental income, which was part of what helped us get through these times. Ultimately, what led this too is I thought I need to really focus on passive income. Like this is it for me. But I didn't want to do just real estate because that was kind of risky. It required capital, which we were not in a position for. Yes, I could have figured it out, but I wanted not to have to do that right then. And I would have had to invest out of state, which I didn't want to do. Like there was just a lot of things that were making it like, maybe not the time for me right now. So I thought I need to figure out a way to make online passive income. And that's when I started my podcast. And I'll tell you why I started it, because if you Google how to make passive income, there are so many get rich quick,
yes.
and like the clickbait,
Yes.
just $1,000 a day. We just sneeze over here. This is magic.
So true. Yes.
I was like, what is real? What is real? My first episode was called Weeding Out the Legit from the Shit.
I love it. I love it, Lindsay.
So that's kind of where I started my podcast, was to just learn from people and really discover what it is that I want to do. And then I could start taking action. And in the meantime, I was able to build up a following and of course, establish myself and my brand. And it was a real blessing, like another one of those God moments where he's like, hey, look, you may not see where this is going yet. Yes. But I know. And so here you go. And that's kind of how that got started.
I love it. I love it. So we can go a few directions, but what I love that you continuously say is like, if I want it, I can create it. Basically, that's the underlying tone. What is your advice to women who they know that they want it, but the circumstances all around them is showing something otherwise? How do you stay committed to what you want when all around you is showing something completely different?
Okay, I'm going to explain it like this. Imagine your eyes are flashlights, okay? If you look over here, you're shining light on your dream. And if you look over here on the other side, you're shining light on your problems and your obstacles, right? Wherever you shine the light is where you're headed. I grew up riding horses, and it was always said that wherever you look, your horse is going to go. And it's true, because as you look, your body turns, the horse feels it, and they go in turn with that. So as you're riding in a circle, you turn your head and it's a flow, right? It's the same in life. It is a mind struggle to remember this and to keep our light shined on what we want. And I think what happens internally is this fear of, but if I don't look over here, these problems are going to get out of control. Or if I don't keep my eyes on this, something bad's going to happen, right?
Yes.
And the truth of the matter is that it only happens because we're giving it our attention. The alternative is true as well. And you will look over here and then look over there and be back and forth for a while, but pay attention. Be mindful of where your attention is. And here's the trick I used, because one thing I don't like a lot are affirmations that feel fake. Okay.
Yes.
So, yes. We could put it up. We could put it up on our screen. We could make a sticky note. I am fill in the blank. I am a successful businesswoman. I am a stay-at-home mom. I am whatever it is that we dream of, right? But if it doesn't feel true, it won't become true. So here's what I would say, and this is how I did it with myself. I know that right now I'm not a stay-at-home mom, but I also know it's possible. I believe in the possibility. I know God has my back. I know I can walk this journey. I know I have the skills it takes to get there. I know it's okay that I don't know how right now, but like I would just go on this tirade talking to myself in my head, right? This is how I would spend my driving time. I refused to let myself get sucked into the chaos and the drama that was around me. I literally refused it. And that is hard. Like, I'll tell you, probably one of the most poignant moments was when grandma, she fell and she broke her hip. And now my mom died when I was really young. So my grandma was my mom, essentially. And she was supposed to move with us to Idaho. Like, that was what we had talked about. She fell and broke her hip. Obviously, moving was out of the question. She was going to be bedridden. So we decided to put our plans on hold. We decided to renovate our garage into a studio for Grandma and Papa so that it would be big enough for her bed. I could help him and all that jazz.
Yeah.
And so at that moment, right, that's a major thing that seems like it's derailing my whole agenda.
Yes.
But it was also what was in my heart. Like I had to ask myself, is this, I knew if I moved and left her in that state, I would like not be able to live with myself, you know, like I just knew that. So I'm like, no, this is what's got to happen. And again, you know, we have to trust. That's the next step, is you have to trust that things are working out. Grandma knew. It's funny, a little side bunny trail, but I remember years and years ago, Grandma sitting in my kitchen. She said, "Oh, Lindsay, if I ever break a bone," and I'm like, she's like, "Oh, just, I don't ever want to break a bone." And I'm like, what are you so worried about breaking bones, Grandma? I'm like, you're spry, you're chipper, you know, you got lots of energy. And this was, I'm talking like 15 years ago. And she said, "Oh, it'll be the death of me." That's what she said.
Wow.
That if I ever broke a bone, especially a hip. And then sure enough, she breaks her hip. She only lived a few weeks. Like we didn't get the room finished and she passed away, you know, so it was her timing. It was God's plan. It was, you know, definitely. And so guess what? Here's the interesting thing. She died in March of 2018. By August of that year, I closed on my house.
Wow. Wow. And that timing was not a coincidence. That timing was set up the way that it was supposed to be set up, Lindsay.
Right. So if I could be a representative to anything, it is that faith wins. Just trust, you know, keep your light shined on what you want and trust that it's working out. Remind yourself it's okay that you don't know how. And ask yourself, what steps can you take today to move yourself towards that goal? And just focus on what's in front of you. You, in a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years, I mean, it took me 3 years at least to go from that time where I was riding in my car crying to moving, right, to putting in my notice. And then even then my journey wasn't over. It was another set of hurdles once I got here, you know, but I learned so much through that now I feel empowered that I can take on anything. Like I can achieve anything because I know how to shine my light and stay focused on the next steps.
Oh, that is so powerful. So, so powerful. And one thing that you pointed out in your journey is that it's important to have faith, but it's also important to have action as well. Even, I like how you said each day, if you could think about or reflect on what you can do each day towards your goal. Because it's not going to fall into your lap. You do have to keep your focus, but you do have to take the steps. Yeah. I love that.
That's why I use that word manifestation so delicately, because, you know, I think sometimes people can get this, and I had it too. I used to write out, you know, scripts and like do the vision boards and put up the pictures of my dream house. And just, I believed that just by imagining it, it would happen. And even going back farther than that, I wrote myself a check for $1 million back in 2007. You know, we've all done those things. And I've learned that like, it's important. That is all important, but it isn't the only, I guess, ingredient, right, to manifestation. It is really where the secret sauce is in the belief that it's going to work out, and you take the action no matter what. Blind action, I call it. Like blindly take action. We blindly packed up our house. We blindly moved here with no plan. Like not suggesting, like some people look at that and go, that is so irresponsible. And it wasn't irresponsible to me, because I knew that I was capable. No matter what, I could get a job. Like even if it was online, I would figure it out. Now, let me also say this. We weren't stupid in that we had paid off our debt. We didn't have car debt. We didn't have credit card debt. We had a savings. We didn't have to touch it. Thank goodness. We kept it from not being touched very, very much, like just barely a little bit. We took smart action. We were not frivolous, but yet we took action. We took all of those saving steps and like paying off all the debt and getting out of car debt. That was hard. Getting out of car debt, man, that is one, that's one that'll get you.
Yes.
But without any of those steps first, then it probably wouldn't have worked out in our favor or as well as it did, I guess. Maybe it would have. I don't know. If God's in control, then what do I know, right?
Exactly. Now, I want to touch upon again the passive income piece, because not everyone is inclined to have a podcast. Not everyone is as, So what are some passive income strategies or ideas would you suggest?
I really sum it up to 4 main passive income products. Now, when you Google how to make passive income, you'll see a lot with affiliate marketing. And there's like, I've seen, at blogs rather with, 30 passive income ideas. Those are all just ideas. I'm talking about the product. Okay. Like, cause nothing happens until you have something to sell. So one product is, and what's interesting, and I'll mention it while I go through these, is the personality types. Cause you mentioned not everybody's inclined for a podcast. Not everybody's inclined for this. That is okay. Okay. So I've already accounted for that. The first is an ebook. Ebooks are hot right now, especially short little ones. It's not necessarily easy to just slap out an ebook, throw it up on Amazon and expect to make bank. There is strategy behind it. There is, you want to get it edited. There's still steps to take. So definitely do the research. But an ebook is one way that doesn't involve necessarily a lot of putting yourself out there to make it, unless you're going to talk about your own story, obviously. The second main product is courses. Courses is a little bit tougher for people who don't like to be on camera and don't like to be the center of attention, right? But courses can be a great way to sell information in a really good format. And the third is printables. So this is a little known one that not very many people know. You can create downloadable material and you could sell it on your website. You could sell it on a Shopify store. You could sell it on Amazon. You could sell it on Etsy. And you can actually make very good money when you find the right product that really is hot. And let's really expand on this for a second. What if you're a stay-at-home mom and you homeschool your kids and you've developed printables that you use within your homeschool? Hot, right? Or maybe you have a flow chart to help yourself organize how you're teaching kids of various ages, right? And how you take one topic and you make it fit all 3 or 4 children. But that is an informational download that people would be like all for. I know I would have been like, wow, because that was my biggest struggle homeschooling is how do I felt like I was going all directions. So organizing my homeschool. So, I mean, the point is, if you have information and you have developed a great strategy that's organizing your life somehow, could be in your budget, in your finances, in meal planning, it doesn't matter. All of those things are great downloads and that people will eat it up. And then the fourth, okay, you're going to have to get, I feel like I'm on the spot and my brain's like going, oh, don't ask. Because I talk about this all the time. Oh, hold on just a moment. E-commerce. Thank you. Okay. E-commerce is the fourth one. Now, e-commerce and like the ebook and the printables can kind of be technically called e-commerce. But when I refer to e-commerce, I'm talking about drop shipping.
Okay.
So that if you read, there's a great book anybody can read called The 4-Hour Workweek that he does a really wonderful job of explaining e-commerce, how it works and how to set it up. Okay. So that is a good resource for people who also don't want to necessarily put themselves out there. Now, let me mention this though, because this is important and I don't want to leave anybody hanging without enough information to be successful. Just because you can find a really awesome product doesn't mean it's going to sell unless you have the marketing strategy to back it up.
Yes.
Okay. So that's kind of where that whole podcast thing comes in, because what I teach is evergreen marketing strategies. I teach a system, a passive income system. I help you first do the mindset work, right? We're going to do that. We're going to also pinpoint that product. We're going to develop the process, put the funnels in place in the email nurtures and the whole fun techie side of things. But the last piece is the marketing. I call it the content effect.
Yeah.
We don't want to create a passive product that we have to hustle, right? We don't want to be out there dropping links and follow me on Instagram and like begging people to buy our stuff. Like that is not the energy that we're going into this with. So what we need is an evergreen marketing strategy. And that comes from a long form content. And if that's a podcast, that's a podcast. If it's a blog, it's a blog, or it could be a YouTube channel. Those are all 3 long form content strategies. And they're great for everybody's personality. If you like to type and write, most people are either auditory or they're written words. Like they kind of have one or the other.
Yeah.
You know, a blog versus a podcast works for you. And a YouTube channel is another great way because it gives you that visual aspect if you're a visual person. Yeah. So those are that's a nutshell version.
I love it.
Kind of my methodology.
I love it. So passive income, we have ebooks, we have courses, we have e-commerce. And like you said, you will have to have like an evergreen marketing strategy behind that so that it can push your information out there. Where can people find out more about signing up? Do you have a course or a program, or is it a coaching session?
All of the above, actually. I do coaching one-on-one. I like to coach people who are starting from scratch, who don't even know what they want to do. They're still finding their purpose. That's my favorite because I usually am really good at helping somebody find a passive product that aligns with their soul, you know? Yeah. And that's one-on-one coaching. My website is thepassiveincomeexaminer.com. The is really important. I'm still working on getting the passiveincomeexaminer.com forward over. So you can find me on Instagram too that way. Then the second piece of the pie is I have a mini course that is this is all on my website, by the way. Mini course for pinpointing a profitable product. That is more for business owners who already have a thriving business, but they want to scale with passive income and find a product that can align with their brand. So that whole course is designed for that. And I am launching an 8-week mastermind in April for business owners that want the whole kit and caboodle for 8 weeks. We're going to have a full immersion, you know, develop your passive product, get the marketing strategy put in place, take it to market, do the market research. The whole kit and caboodle is included in that. So all of that is on my website.
I love it. I love it. I know that we did say, I just want to take it back just a little bit. I know that we address people who may not want to have a podcast, but what about the people who do want to have a podcast? What is your number one takeaway for that to get them started?
Okay, well, podcasting is one of those things that it is extremely easy to start a podcast and very affordable. I ended up, though, hiring a podcasting coach. And the reason I did that was because, again, remember, I was working full time again. I was still involved with my kids. I wasn't interested I wanted to collapse time, I suppose is the best way I could say it. Yes. I wanted it effective. And I also was doing it as a brand. I wasn't doing it as a passion project. It was, but I wanted to make it something else. So I invested and I got a coach. But I would say this, if you want to start a podcast, think of it from the end. And this is true for any online business. I am a major proponent of this. If you go into your business thinking small, you're going to get stuck in a small business. Yes. If you go into your business thinking big, you will grow. And by that, what I mean is if you look for the cheapest way to start a podcast and the cheapest, way to get your email marketing done and all of that, not to say that cheap options aren't good options sometimes, but when you know there's a good option and you choose the smaller option because it's more affordable, here's what happens. And I learned from this is my own experience. I set up GetResponse. I used them for my email marketing to start. I wanted to go to Kajabi, but Kajabi was more expensive. So I made this choice. I said, no, I'll just start here But what I didn't see, okay, was a year later when Kajabi made more sense and now my business was working and I could afford it and all that jazz. All of my landing pages, all of my podcast episodes were going to this Get Response. And now I'm like either stuck paying for two or just letting it go. And now letting all those episodes mean nothing to people. And that really stinks. So when I'm coaching somebody, I usually try to encourage them to find the right solution, not because of necessarily just price. And the other thing is, once you commit, you end up making more of an effort. Like when you have $100 coming out every month for this Kartra or whatever it is, girl, you are going to step up.
That's right. It's so true. You are. Yes.
Yep. It is motivating.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you do podcast coaching as well, right? Or no?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Do you do podcast coaching as well? Or
so I believe it or not, I don't advertise this as I'm a podcast coach thing because it's part of my thing, but I get asked this question a lot and I end up helping people a lot. So eventually I think I will throw together a course or something that will help people to give them an outlet. But in the meantime, it's part of my coaching process. Okay. So, if we work together, I help you, like I said, with all those three pieces I mentioned. And if podcasting is where you want to go, by all means, I'm right there with you. Like if I'm your coach, I'm helping you.
Okay. That makes sense. That definitely makes sense. Okay. So my final question for you, Lindsay, is what is your biggest takeaway that you want to tell the audience to inspire them?
Well, I think it's just remember that you're capable. I think as women, we self-sabotage. I watched this video. I don't know if you know who Anya Strom is. She is an astrophysicist, I believe. She works for the European Space Agency. And she talks about how as a woman in space, as a woman in this male-dominated industry, how surprising it was for her over her years to see women compete so much more differently than men. Men would show up less qualified and expect themselves to get the job. Whereas women show up overqualified, still thinking they have more to learn. We forget how capable we are. And you have to remind yourself on a regular basis. I have a list on my wall of everything I've accomplished in my life. And it wasn't just because I wanted to boast about myself. It was, I needed that because I was like, wow, I could fill up 3 pages with things I've accomplished. And when I'm feeling down on myself, I can look at that and go, oh yeah, look at this, Lindsay, you have come so far. We have to be our own cheerleader. We have to remember that we are capable. Otherwise, we're relying on everybody else to do that. And that's just not going to work. That would be my biggest takeaway.
I love it. Well, Lindsay, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to chat with me. And your story is so powerful. And I know that it's really going to resonate with so many women and show them that you too can overcome anything that comes in your way. And that with focus, like you said, with blinders and with action, you can make anything come into being. Thank you so much, Lindsay.
My pleasure. Thank you.